Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew a simple crop top. I just used a V neckline, but with this tutorial, you can still come up with any other designs around the neckline. But anyways, let's get right into the video. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing in our starting line. So we're going to go ahead and mark our neckline. So just go out by 3 inches. I initially went out by 4 inches, but 3 inches is the perfect neckline. Then we shall go ahead to mark half of our shoulder measurements plus 0.5 inches of ease plus 0.5 inches of sewing allowance. So for the front neckline depth, we're going to have 8.5 inches. And then we shall go in by 0.5 inches at the bottom. Then we shall just draw in that line. So now we're going to move on to getting our bust line. My bust line is 11. Then we shall go ahead and mark our waistline, which is going to also act as our full length. Mine is 18, so we shall just go ahead and mark the points. That will be the bust line, and then that will be the full length line. So for this specific outfit, we're going to be taking out 2 inches from the full length line for the black strips. But in case you want to make a top without the black strips at the bottom, you can just go ahead to add sewing allowance. And in this case, the sewing allowance would be 1.5 inches. And then we shall draw in our line. So we shall first go ahead and draft the rest of the top, and then we shall be taking out the 2 inches after it's done. So now we're going to first go ahead and find our armhole depth, but first we're going to mark our shoulder slope, which is 1 inch. Then we shall just go ahead and draw in the line. And so now to find the armhole depth, we're going to use our bust divide by 6 plus 1.5 inches, which is 7.5 in this case, but I added 0.5 inches of ease to make it 8 inches. So we shall just go ahead and draw in that line. So that will be our armhole depth. And then we shall go on and measure the shoulder measurements from there, and then we shall just transfer that measurement down there. So we shall draw in that line. So then we shall go ahead to mark in our bust measurements, which will be the bust divide by 4 plus 1 inch of ease, and then we shall add half an inch of sewing allowance. So then we shall just go to the bust line and transfer the same measurement there. But first I'm going to name the lines. That's the bust line, the armhole line, and then the waist line or the full length. And then that's the sewing allowance line. So on the bust line, we shall also be getting a quarter of the bust measurement plus 1 inch of ease plus half an inch of sewing allowance. So moving on to the waist, we're going to get the same measurement on the bust line, and then we shall just deduct 1 inch. So we're just going to transfer that measurement to the waistline, and after marking it, we shall just go in by 1 inch. So we shall just go ahead and join the points just like that. So to draw the armhole curve, we're just going to get the midpoint of that line, and then we shall mark it, and then we shall go in by half an inch. And then we shall join the points with a curve, just like that. So we're going to be cutting the back and the front together, so we're just going to go ahead and also add the back neckline. So I went in by 1.5 inches, but please use 0.5 inches or 0.75 inches at most to avoid any gaping. So when we are cutting out the pieces, we shall be starting with the back, and then we shall then move on to the front. I'll show you how to go about it. So we're just going to go ahead and add 0.5 inches of sewing allowance at the shoulder line. And then we shall just draw in the line and connect the points. So we shall be cutting this on fold for both pieces. So we're just going to go ahead and cut out the pattern. I'll be taking out the 2 inches for the black strips later. Let's first move on to drafting our sleeve. So we shall start by drawing in the start line. So I'm going to put our sleeve length, which would have been 10 inches, but we shall be putting 8 inches because I'm going to be subtracting the 2 inches for the black strips that we shall be adding later. So we shall just go ahead and draw in the line, and then we shall just mark it as the sleeve length. So if we were not going to be adding any black pieces, we would be adding sewing allowance of like 1.5 inches. But because we're going to be adding strips, we shall just be adding 0.5 inches of sewing allowance, which we shall use to attach the strips. So to get our cap line, we shall be using half of our armhole depth, which is 4 inches in this case. And then we shall just draw in the line. So for this part, we shall have the armhole depth, which is 8 inches plus 1 inch of ease, and then we shall add 0.5 inches of sewing allowance. So then we can just go ahead to carve it in like this. I would have just used freehand, but in case you're new to this, you can just draw in that line, find a midpoint, and then at the center of this part, just go up by about 0.5 inches, and then also at the other point, just go down by about 0.5 inches, and then you can just draw a curve. You can go in with a curve ruler in case you have one. So then we shall move on to the bicep line. We shall mark half of our bicep, which is 6 plus 1 inch of ease, and then 0.5 inches of sewing allowance. And then we shall just draw in the curve. So then that's going to be our sewing allowance line. I'm just going to go ahead and mark it. We shall also be cutting this on fold. So this part is optional, but we can draft out the black piece that we are going to be attaching to the bottom of the sleeve. We shall start out by drawing our starting line, and then we shall measure 2 inches below it because that is going to be the length of the black extension. So we shall just draw in the line like that. And then to attach this piece to the sleeve, we shall be adding a 0.5 inch sewing allowance, just like we added onto the sleeve. So we shall just add 0.5 inches there and draw in that line, and then we shall just get that same length, and then we shall transfer it to that lower extension piece. You can just add about 0.5 inches of allowance and make it a bit longer to leave room for any mismatches while you're attaching the piece. So that upper part will be the sewing allowance, so we shall just draw it in like that, and then this part will be on fold, and also this part will be on fold. And we shall be cutting out 2 of these pieces. So we shall just go ahead and cut out those pieces. So at the end, this is what it's going to look like, and that's how we shall join the black piece to the bottom of the sleeve, just like that. So for the main piece, we're going to first ignore that sewing allowance bit, and then from the full length line, we shall be going up by 2 inches. And this is because we're going to be subtracting the length of those black pieces that we're going to be adding at the bottom. So we shall just mark the previous full length line, and then we shall draw in our new full length line. That below was the sewing allowance, and this here is our new full length line. So from the new full length line, we shall be adding 0.5 inches of sewing allowance, which we shall be using to attach the black piece at the bottom. So instead of us cutting it off, I'm just going to fold it in just like you see in the video, so that I can be able to use the same draft in case I want to make a full length crop top. So we are also going to create the draft for the black strips that we shall be adding at the bottom, just similar to the sleeve. So here I'm just marking out the new sewing allowance and the former sewing allowance, but we shall be folding it in back to that new sewing allowance. And that will be the draft that we shall use to create the black strips at the bottom. And so we're done with the drafting. So moving on to cutting the fabric. So like I told you earlier, we shall be cutting the back and the front together. So we shall first fold it the first time and then fold it the second time, just like that. So just like you see in the video, we have folded it into 4 pieces, and those parts at the top are unfold. So after we've fitted the bodies on the fabric, we shall pin it down into place, and then we shall start cutting. And like I told you earlier, we shall first cut the back part. So after you're done, just make sure to mark your wrong sides. So when you're done, you'll put aside one of the pieces that will be the back, and then we shall work on the front piece. So we shall then cut out our front neckline, just like you see in the video. So I'm just pinning down the piece so that I can use it for later. But yes, we shall just place it there, and then we shall cut out the front neckline. And so that's it for the front pattern. That's what it looks like when we open it up. And then this other part will be the back, just like that. So moving on to the sleeve, we shall also be folding the fabric 4 times, since we're going to be cutting both the sleeves together. And after we have folded it just like you see in the video, we shall then cut it out. So that will be it for the sleeves. So we shall just make sure to notch the center just like that. And then we shall go ahead to mark the wrong sides. So moving on to the black strips, we shall also be folding the fabric 4 times, and then we shall use the draft by placing it on top of the fabric, and then we shall cut it out just like you see in the video. So those are the black strips for the sleeve, which match up when you do that, and then that's for the bodice, which will also match up just like that. And then this black strip is going to be for the neckline. Mine was 35 inches long and 3 inches wide. So I also cut out some interfacing for it. Make sure to also cut out another interfacing just to put at the bottom of the front neckline. I've already ironed it on the wrong side of the fabric. And so on the wrong side of the fabric, we're now going to start by attaching these strips. By the way, at this point, I've already ironed them on fold, just like that. Just follow what I'm doing in the video. We shall just place it like that, open it up, and then stitch along that part. So like you can see in the video, I'm done stitching there. Remember, it's on the wrong side of the fabric. Make sure to press it with a flat iron after you're done, and then we shall turn it to the right side of the fabric, and then we shall fold it in like that and then stitch it. You can pin it down in case that makes it easier for you. But yes, that's what it's going to look like. I'm already done doing it on the front side. And so that's what it should look like at the end. We shall then trim off any excess fabric. And also by the time you're done, these parts should be aligning. From that point to that point, it should be the same, so that when you join them, they are matching. So now I'm going to go ahead and just stitch down the rest of it. And then we're going to repeat the same exact process at the bottom of the sleeves. So as you can see in the video, I'm already done with all the parts. What's left to do is also to trim the sides of the sleeves, where we shall just do that, and then we shall just trim off that excess and trim it in form of a curve, just like you see in the video. So we shall also go ahead and trim off the rest of the black strips, just like that. So like I told you earlier, after you're done with that, make sure that those parts are aligning. Once they are, right sides facing each other, we're going to place them like that, and then we shall go ahead and sew in the shoulders. So I've already done that, just like you see in the video. And just a reminder, it's right sides facing each other. And so we're going to move on to the neckline, but make sure you've already ironed that interfacing onto the fabric. So we shall open it up like this, and then make sure to press the shoulders with a flat iron. And then we shall get this other piece, the one that we cut out for the neckline. Then we shall make sure we press the interfacing onto it, and then fold it into 2, just like that, and press it. And so this is how we're going to be attaching it to the neckline. So we shall place the black strip like that and leave about 3 inches of the black piece, just like that, and then we shall start pinning it down all around the neckline. And this is on the right side. But before that, we're going to measure 1/4 inch at the bottom of the neckline, just like that, on the right side of the fabric. Then we shall draw a line. That's what it looks like. And this is because we're going to be using 1/4 inch for sewing allowance. So after that's done, we're going to put the black piece over it like that, and then we shall extend that line to the black piece. So when we are stitching, we're going to start exactly at that line by 1/4 inch for sewing allowance. And after we are done sewing all around, when we reach that point, we shall also stop exactly on that line. So right now I've already finished sewing all around. Like you've seen in the video, I've already done that all around the neckline. And like I told you, I stopped exactly at that point where the line is, as you can see in the video. And this is what it should look like on the wrong side, just like that. So the next thing we're doing is we're going to notch those corners till we reach the black stitch, and you have to go so close to the black stitch, but make sure you don't actually cut the black stitch. And also we are only notching on the yellow fabric, we're not going to be notching on the black strips. So that's exactly what I'm doing in the video. You just have to be very careful so that you don't actually cut the stitch, and that's what it's going to look like when it's done. So after we're done, we shall just turn it to the right side, and then we shall be putting in those black pieces just like that. And then we shall pull them out from the wrong side. Once they're looking neat, we're just going to turn it back to the wrong side, and then we shall pull out that part that we had notched. Then we shall just sew in the 1/4 inch line that we drew from notch to notch. So we're just going to hold those two pieces, and then we shall just go ahead and sew it in. So as you can see, I've already finished sewing that in just like that. And so we shall just be trimming off the excess, and that will be it for the neckline. You can just go ahead and press it with a flat iron. We shall then go in and overlock all the raw edges all around. As you can see in the video, I've already finished doing that. And now it's looking much neater. So moving on to the next thing, we shall be attaching the sleeves to the top. So we shall get the sleeve and make sure it's notched at the center there. Then we shall just open it up. And then for the main piece, we're also going to get the center of the sleeve and then notch it as well. In this case, the center of my sleeve is exactly at that seam line, so that's what I'm going to use. So we're going to hold the sleeve and place it just like that, right sides facing each other, and make sure that the center of the sleeve is matching the center of the main piece. So we shall start stitching from the center and sew it all the way to the other side, and then again come back to the center and sew it all the way to this other side. But before that, I'm going to first go and overlock from that side all the way through the armhole to the end here, and I'll also go and do the same thing for the sleeve. So at this point, I've finished overlocking the raw edges and then attaching the sleeve. Like you can see in the video, this is what it looks like. And so we're just going to turn it to the wrong side just like that. And then we're going to be stitching the side seams all the way from that point to the bottom. So at this point, I've already finished doing that, as you can see in the video. And I've done that on both sides. So you can just go ahead and do a final press with a flat iron, and that will be it for the top. Alright, if this video was helpful, make sure to leave a like and a comment, and in case you have any questions, leave that in the comment section. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any video I post. Alright, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.